I wanted to talk to you about today was frames. And how do you frame things properly? Because when you have the wrong frame around something, then the analogies don't work, the metaphors don't work, the strategy doesn't work, the comparisons don't work, nothing really kind of fits right. But when you do find the right frame, all of that stuff works. You get this kind of shock of clarity that like, oh my gosh, this is the right way that I need to be looking at this particular problem, and that's going to help me figure out how to execute and kind of crystallizes my path forward. And so especially for the gamification industry, I think the frame is incredibly important. And the frame, the right frame, is not the game frame. I mean, it's fascinating that you've already seen today several presentations. I mean, Will Wright, breathtakingly brilliant guy, right, with proven track and success record, and he's talking about games. And then we've got Robert Torres talking about games. This isn't about games, right? Because games are things that are made. You take nothing and you create something, and that whole purpose of that something is to entertain and to have fun. And that's really hard, as 1,000 failed game studios will tell you. Making a good game is really hard. And then making a good game whose whole purpose is to do something else that's got some sort of ulterior motive, to teach you something, to brand advertise something, that's even harder, which is why most of those games have a very hard time succeeding. So gaming in and of itself, it's not a scalable and repeatable process that you can apply to a business problem to drive results. If it was, then all these game studios would be successful. That's why the game frame is not the right frame, right? If your business is Pixar or Disney or Electronic Arts, then it's absolutely the right frame. You're trying to entertain, you're trying to make things fun, but that's not what you're trying to do here. You're trying to drive business results around something that isn't inherently entertaining. So games, even though the term gamification has the word game in the name, and it's kind of ironic, and we had something to do with that too, and it's out there, but it doesn't mean we need to be stuck in the game frame. So then what is the right frame? And we're convinced now, after 6 years of doing this, that the right frame is the loyalty frame. But there's a problem with that one too, right? Which is when you think of the word loyalty, what do you think of? What immediately comes to mind is earning points and redeeming them for something in like a frequent flyer program or some other kind of thing. And the likelihood is that you are deeply ambivalent about that kind of thing, that you're a member of 18 of those programs, that you participate in less than half of those, and that they're absolute failures at actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is driving your actual loyalty. And what does that mean? What does it mean to be loyal? It means that in the face of a competitive offer, you're going to resist. That if a new store opens up across the street, if a competitor slashes prices, you will stay with this particular business or this particular brand because you've established a relationship that has gone beyond the transactional and has gone into something more. They have engaged you somehow, and they are not one of these failures that is only driving loyalty to the particular deal and not to the business. So really, it's all about how do you get people to patronize your business, and how do you develop a relationship with them so that they resist competitive offers. And that's in the customer space, right? All this loyalty industry has completely been focused on the customer space. But then you have to think about, well, businesses don't just rely on their customers. There are other constituents in the picture as well. There are employees. Don't you want your employees to be loyal as well? And what does that mean there? That means you want them to perform better. You want them thinking in the best interests of the company at all times. And you want them to resist competitive offers as well, right? So you've got these employees, and you're spending billions of dollars to make your customers more loyal, and yet you've got these employees who are arguably kind of the most important part of your business because everything flows from them, right? Productive employees, happy employees leads to good, happy customers leads to profit. And so if you're not spending any time on that, what are you doing? You're developing loyalty with your customers, but not with your employees, who are kind of the root cause of all your success. And then you've got partners. Businesses today do like nothing alone. You're always working with other people, and you're working with them to source raw materials or components. You're working with them to enhance your current product offering. You're working with them to amplify your sales efforts. So you need them to be engaged. You need them to be loyal. And yet, what are most companies doing around that? If they're doing anything at all, they're building loyalty programs that look a lot like those 18 consumer programs that you're part of that you're completely ambivalent about and could care less. And so clearly there's a huge opportunity here to do something, to drive real engagement and loyalty amongst these three constituents, your customers, your employees, and your partners, and use that to drive meaningful business results. And smart companies are going to figure this out, right? And this is what we're calling Loyalty 3.0. And the whole idea of Loyalty 3.0 is taking back the word loyalty and having it actually mean something, right? Like the loyalty industry is like destroyed the meaning of this term because it's not about loyalty, right? It's all about going after the best deal. We need to take this word back and actually make it mean something, which is how do you drive participation? How do you drive engagement? How do you motivate people to do things, take high-value activity, and establish a relationship with your customers that makes them resist competitive offers and have a relationship with you? So in order to know kind of where we're going, it's always useful to know where we've been. Loyalty 1.0, well, you guys all know this, right? It's the buy 10, get one free. It's the airline frequent flyer programs. It's completely transactional, completely focused on customers, and as we've noted, has been a kind of complete failure at actually generating real loyalty, yet billions of dollars a year are spent on these kinds of programs. Then next up, we had Loyalty 2.0. This kind of emerged in the 1990s. This was one-to-one marketing, Peppers and Rogers. I'm sure many of you know this kind of stuff, right? This was kind of the beginnings of taking data into loyalty programs and utilizing it to make them more personalized and more segmented. So based on things I now know about you, can I market to you with more specificity? And kind of the primary method of doing this was going through direct mail and going through email marketing, right? And so you're personalizing all this content. And it worked really well for a while, but now everybody's kind of drowning in the noise, right? There's so much stuff coming to you via direct mail and via email that nobody's paying any attention anymore. And kind of a fundamental problem of Loyalty 1.0 and 2.0 programs is like this structural earn-burn paradigm, right? You get very excited when you sign up at the very beginning because you think about all the great rewards that you're going to earn. And then at the very end, when you maybe have enough points to redeem for something good, some magnificent reward, or maybe just a magazine. And then in the middle, there's like nothing going on. There's this kind of giant gulf of grinding where you're just trying to earn points to get to the reward phase, and no actual loyalty is being generated. I often say that these programs have a beginning and an end, and they have no middle, right? There's this huge gulf of opportunity in the middle in traditional loyalty programs. So Loyalty 3.0 is really about three things that have happened, that have gone on. People often ask me, like, why is this happening now? So one is, and has been alluded to earlier today, this understanding of human motivation, that we now have like a much richer and deeper understanding. Maggie talked about it, about what's going on with people. And some of this is based on work of Edward Deci and Richard Ryan at the University of Rochester, so self-determination theory, things like autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And then you've got Dan Ariely with his work on purpose. You've got Teresa Amabile with her work on progress. Like there's all this new kind of rich data about what actually motivates people that you can now take and utilize in loyalty programs. You combine that with big data, right? So, you know, in the old days, Loyalty 1.0, you had one transactional stream coming in, which was purchase data. And you had one constituent that you were serving because you only had that one transactional stream, which was your customers. Now we have data about everything. Everything we're doing has moved online. Everything we're doing is being mediated by technology, our consumer life, our work life, our entertainment life, our communication life, and it's throwing off data. All this data, and all that data can be used to drive and motivate behavior. And so finally, you take those two things, this big data set of user activity, what we understand about motivation, and then you take these data-driven motivational techniques from video games. I'm now convinced that this is like the right definition for gamification. Because all the other stuff, a lot of the stuff we saw today was about games. A lot of the stuff you're going to see later today is about games. And again, not scalable, not repeatable. Data-driven motivation, absolutely scalable and repeatable, right? Taking this big data of user activity, applying motivational techniques to get people to do things. And especially in the workplace, there's an amazing opportunity here, right? If you think about it, Netflix knows more about your customer or your employees than you do. Facebook knows more about your employees than you do. And Amazon knows more about your employees than you do. And yet you spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day in those work systems doing stuff for your employer, and they're ignoring all that data. That same data that Netflix, Amazon, and Facebook are mining and utilizing to optimize the experience to make you a more valuable customer, your employers are completely ignoring. Huge opportunity in that space. So Loyalty 3.0 is big data plus motivation, power, gamification, and that's what drives true loyalty and engagement. So my colleague Barry Kirk actually had a really great article in Chief Marketer recently, because we're talking about true loyalty. Well, what does that mean kind of in the scale of loyalty things? So he actually had these kind of 4 tiers of loyalty. Inertial loyalty is I'm too lazy to move, right? There's kind of a barrier to exit. The only airline that flies out of my nearest airport is United. I'm stuck on United. This is the local grocery store, or it's just too hard or too irritating to try to change. So this is kind of like the lowest possible tier of loyalty. Next up, you've got mercenary loyalty, right? This is kind of like, if Chase is offering me 2% and somebody else is offering me 3%, I'm gone, right? I'm going to wherever I get the biggest deal or the best deal. And this is where most loyalty programs are at today. They're kind of at this mercenary loyalty level. What we're trying to get to is what we've been talking about, which is true loyalty, right? Resistance to a competitive offer, a relationship that transcends the transactional relationship. And then finally, you've got cult loyalty, which can't really be manufactured, but can be kind of cultivated once you have it. This is when your brand actually becomes a lens, a frame, through which your customers look at the world, right? I am a creative hipster and I think different, right? So I buy Apple stuff, or I'm born to be free and wild and the man can't keep me down, and so I ride Harleys, that kind of thing. Like, that's what cult loyalty is. But our goal here is to try and get to true loyalty. And so when you're talking about true loyalty, the other word that often comes up is engagement, right? And so loyalty and engagement, they're kind of flip sides of the same coin. There are as many different definitions of engagement as there are people, probably. This is my favorite. This is from Forrester. And so they say a deep emotional connection with the brand, high levels of active participation, and a long-term relationship. And I love that middle point, right? So it's not just about passive receiving of something or being part of something. Being active means you're participating, you're creating, you're advocating, you're co-innovating, co-creating, like what Jesse was talking about, right? You are engaged, and that's what actually drives true loyalty. So engagement and loyalty, flip sides of the same coin. So now we know about kind of loyalty and engagement. The second frame we want to look at is, why is this stuff important to us now? Why are you all here? Right? You guys are you're the innovators, you're the ambassadors, you're the emissaries that have come from your companies to learn about this new thing. And you're here for a reason, because stuff is going on in the world that is actually making this really important to understand right now. And what is that stuff? So Robert F. Kennedy gave a speech in 1966 in Cape Town, South Africa, where he kind of quoted this Chinese saying, may he live in interesting times. Right? It sounds great, right? It's actually meant to be a curse. Interesting times are a time of great danger and uncertainty, but they're also a time when kind of the creative energies of men can be unleashed, and there's a world of opportunity. And this, fast forward to now, and the same thing is happening. You've got businesses kind of going up and down at light speed, right? Who could have imagined Pinterest and Dropbox and WhatsApp and Line 2 years ago, right? All that stuff wasn't there. Who could have imagined that a 13-person photo sharing startup could be so threatening to Facebook that they'd spend $1 billion to acquire them? Things are happening so incredibly quickly in our space, and there are all these macro trends that are converging. And people that can kind of see these trends and understand what they're driving, they're all converging on this: how do we engage our customers more because of what's going on? And so what we'll do is we'll flip through these really quickly. The first is, we're living in the age of distraction, right? You're out there tweeting about the contest. You're looking on your mobile phone. You're playing games. You're doing it at work, on the train, at the dinner table. A billion people are spending hours every day tweeting, liking, sharing, all that kind of stuff. And in that age of distraction, as a business trying to attract customers, how do you get your message to cut through the noise? Because disengaged customers will leave. They'll just defect, right? They'll abandon carts. They will go off to competitors. And if you lose them, you've lost them. They're gone for good. Second up, the workforce is clearly disengaged, right? You're seeing the stats all over here. Gallup did a study that everybody's quoting now, which is basically saying 70% of the workforce is disengaged. That's costing businesses $350 billion a year in lost productivity. And that same study is talking about all the benefits of engaged employees, what they drive. And they drive productivity, profitability, product quality, with decreases in absenteeism, turnover, and shrinkage. A huge opportunity to take that 70% that currently isn't doing what you want them to be doing and motivate them to do more. Social media has clearly changed things, right? Like you saw it in a lot of Jesse's stuff too, like the way people are able to interact. It used to be with television that the man, the corporate being, had the means of broadcast and could get everything out to you, and you were just a passive receiver. Now that's all completely changed. You'll hear Mark Yolton later on talking about how SAP has been an innovator in this space and kind of taking input from their community and developing ways for their customers to talk to each other. But now that's exactly what's happening, right? Everybody's talking to each other. The customers, the companies, do they have any control of what's going on? No. So good stuff, bad stuff, all kinds of stuff can spread like wildfire, and the whole goal is, how do you make your customers advocates and not instigators, right? How do you get them into a relationship with you so that they're on your side? Technology is like migrated always, right? It starts in the military, then it's made its way into the business, and then into the consumer. And so, now you've got tablets and phones and everything. Like, you got more computing power in your hand than used to take up a whole room 20 years ago. And the thing that's kind of interesting that's changed is it used to be that we all used more technology in the workplace than at the home, right? So people designed for the workplace. Your manager, kind of command and control, told you what to use, and that's what sets your expectations of technology. But that's completely flipped in the last couple of years. Now we're all using more technology at home than we are in the workplace, and that technology has been designed for us. It's been designed to be easy, to be simple, to be delightful. And when you take that and you compare that with the current HRM systems, the expense reporting systems, the Salesforce automation systems, all that work stuff now pales in comparison, and this technology is working its way in bottom up instead of top down command and control. What starts with somebody using an iPad or box in one department quickly makes its way through an entire company. Gen Y, clearly, this is a big deal, right? There are 80 million Gen Y in the US. Every day, another 10,000 of them turn 21 years old. They make up 25% of the workforce right now. In the year 2025, they're going to make up 75% of the workforce. 3 out of every 4 employees is going to be from Gen Y, which is this generation that was born in the kind of early 80s to mid 90s. And these are people that have grown up with technology, with the language and metaphors of games, that are used to instant real-time feedback on everything that they do, constant reinforcement, positive and negative. And they view their life as a game. MTV has done some studies in the last couple of years on this group, and they're talking about, these are some of the quotes that they treat life as a video game. They think they're better at leveling up in the workplace than older people are, and winning is the slogan of my generation. And so you need to be able to figure out, how do you engage with these employees in a way and in a style and with a metaphor that they actually understand and relate to. And then distributed workforces. IBM, 40% of their 400,000 employees are working in distributed locations, and there's huge benefits to this, right? You've got people not commuting, you're saving in the overhead and the costs, you're able to get the best employees for the job, but the downsides are many, right? Like, this is still a new thing, as we've seen in kind of the latest brouhaha with Yahoo and even Best Buy kind of limiting how much people can work from remotely. And so with this, you've got questions from managers about, like, how do I know that my employees are actually working? And then for the remote workers, you've got these issues of discipline. When I'm working from home, how do I keep work and play separate? Do I have clear metrics around my job? How do I see what my peers are doing? Informal and formal opportunities for interaction are decreased. And so in that kind of context, companies that can figure out how to make a distributed workforce more effective by utilizing engagement, reputation, and loyalty mechanics are going to be the ones that win. It's amazing, like, all this technology, what it's done for us, but it's also made everything more complicated, right? Like, I don't know how to use my microwave at home. It's like, it's kind of gotten that bad. And if you've got customers, how are they going to learn about all your offerings? How are your employees going to learn about all the tools that they need to utilize? And how are your partners going to learn about your products so that they can sell them better? There is so much to learn and so much complexity. We're living in an age where people will spend 4 hours playing Angry Birds, but they won't spend 5 minutes going through training. So in that, how do you actually get people to engage with your content? And if you can, then you're going to win in your industry as well. And then finally, Mark Andreessen, this venture capitalist, and founder of Netscape, serial entrepreneur, had this phrase, software is eating the world, right? And it basically was this article in the Wall Street Journal was great. It's basically about how the rise of global broadband and mobile internet, which means everybody's online, cheap tools and infrastructure for building things and free software tools has led to software industries destroying kind of traditional brick and mortar industries, right? So you've got Netflix destroying Blockbuster, you've got Skype destroying the telephone companies, you've got Amazon destroying the book industry, and you've got like iTunes and Pandora and Spotify destroying the music industries. But the byproduct of all this software eating the world is data. All this data flying out there that now smart companies can take and can utilize in order to motivate their customers, partners, and employees. So at the end of the day, there's a huge opportunity in this space for you guys, kind of the vanguard, the companies that are interested in this, to know that people are going to start demanding this. And the companies that aren't leveraging all this data being generated by their systems to motivate customers, partners, and employees to perform better, to be active, to be loyal, are going to get left behind. And the ones that do are going to have a competitive advantage and are going to win in their markets. Thank you.